Ooh, all right. Let's get things started. Howdy, everybody. Welcome. Beelzebub's Tales to His Grandson, Chapter 43, Part 2. We are learning about war. Welcome to everyone in the chat. Howdy, Tyler. Happy anniversary. And yeah, let's just jump into it, guys. For all those watching in the future. Oh, hey, Kimberly. How's it going? Bob, everyone's coming in now. Everyone's coming in now. For all those looking in the future, if you want to read along, you can go to this site, gurdjieff.org, scroll down to the bottom to their library primary texts, and you can use the PDF that I'm using right here, right now. Please donate. Give a one-time donation via PayPal, or maybe set up something continuous via Ko-fi to help the channel out. Don't forget, we always also have memberships. Now, where did we leave off last week? We were talking about war, and we were talking about society. We live in a society, basically. And these people, we're talking about, what is it, institutions that come up, and then immediately the next generation of people will sabotage the institution that was created to help people, just for no reason, just for pure Hasnamusian tendencies. So let's just jump back into it. I believe we were here. Little Beelzebub. Oh, hello. Thank you, Kimberly, for the $5. Thank you so much. Every little bit helps. Every little bit helps, guys. These people. Leaders. People who show leadership. People who show real management potential. Hasnamusans. Now, Beelzebub continues talking. Here, apropos, it will be opportune for you also to know that during the long centuries of my attentive observations of the three-brained beings of the planet Earth, I never once noticed that in any of the societies formed by them, with the aim of jointly devising means for the happy existence of the great masses, which societies there, now and then, also happen to exist. Okay, that's interesting. That's good. So Beelzebub's talking here. And he does say, happy existence of the great masses, which societies there now and then also have. So every now and then we do get a good society. We do get a good society. It's not hopeless. Did beings ever participate who had more or less objective reason? To which, as I have already told you, many there did nevertheless attain by their perseverant efforts in their aim for self-perfection. So it's interesting, you know, despite everything, every now and then a society exists, that's alright, and every now and then a person who really does strive does kind of reach more or less objective reason. It's like, okay, nice, so there is a little hope, In the course of the observations during my last sojourn, there I cleared up, among other things, also howdy Morgoth, or should I say Dylan, that the beings with objective reason do not happen to be in these societies for the following reasons. That's pretty funny. So the very thing we need, the very leaders we need, abandon us. Howdy Nick D in the chat. Taoists say don't edge, it makes you tetchy? Sketchy? I mean, that's not technically correct. The Taoists say, you know, if there's sexual energy, you should use it. But they still have their transmutation techniques. The point is, I mean, I guess they don't do any, like, weird stroking and then, like, try to suppress the energy in that kind of way. They're very different. They're very different in the way they direct their energies. But now, the point is, yes, the point is, Nick, the point is that in order to participate in any society whatsoever, a being must always, of necessity, be important, and such a being there among them, thanks once again to the abnormality established conditions of being existence, can only be one who either has a great deal of money, or who becomes what is called famous among the other beings there. Yeah, so you can't be rich and famous, you gotta be rich or famous. I mean, nowadays, you know, you can be both, I guess. And since, especially during recent times, only those beings can become famous and important among them, in whom the mentioned sacred function, namely being conscious, is entirely absent, so you need to not have a conscience if you want to get rich, then in consequence of the fact that this sacred function in the presences of beings is in general always associated with everything that represents and is objective reason, then of course those three-brained beings with objective reason always have conscience as well, and consequently such a being with conscience will never be important among the other beings. God damn. This is interesting though. This is where we get a little confirmation as well. So, because there's so many things in the work that we're like, what do we do first? Where's the, give me the flow chart where we do this first, and then we do this and this and this and this, and then we end up with like a causal body and objective being reason. In previous chapters, Gurdjieff outlined this kind of Freudian psychoanalytic kind of state of the mind where our consciousness splits into conscious and unconscious. And he says there are, in our conscious mind, we get weirded up and manipulated, and we gain all these Hasnamusian tendencies, and we have these normal impulses of our being, but then they get warped. So like hope and love. Oh, what was the other one? Faith? Hope, faith, and love, and those things get warped. Oh, hello, voice in the wilderness. Welcome to the chat. Welcome today. And it's like I'm just talking about conscience and objective reason. So it's like you have this split of the consciousness, and you have these being impulses within us, but one being impulse, the conscience, the true conscience, was able to stay kind of not manipulated, not warped, but the way it did that is it shrunk into the subconsciousness as a kind of a protection thing. But then because of that, we're not kind of conscious of it. It's not part of our everyday daily awareness. It's in our subconscious region. So maybe we'll do something in the day, and then during our dreams at night, something will happen, we'll feel guilty or something, but it's subconscious. Some people can pull that conscience out of their consciousness, but not always. But here we get confirmation that if you have objective reason, you have conscience. So it's interesting. There you could tier rank it and be like, to get to objective reason, a litmus test, or one of the qualities that already needs to be there is the awakening of conscience. Conscience needs to be awoken in our subconsciousness and needs to be drawn up into our daily consciousness. That is a prerequisite for objective reason. Very interesting. So we got a little confirmation there. So that's good. That's good. And on a chapter on war, no doubt. How hilarious. That is why the beings with pure reason there never have had and never will have the possibility of taking part in the societies of beings who are formed of important and power-possessing beings. So yeah, this is the great tragedy then, because everyone's like, world peace. I've got a good idea, world peace. The problem is you need people to change within themselves, and here's the rub. It's not everybody. You actually don't need everybody to change themselves to have world peace. You know what you really need? You need the power-possessing beings to have change within themselves. And this is just it, the circumstances of life, the structure of our society. If you are a power-possessing being, it is automatic that there are going to be Hasnamusian, at least if not Hasnamusian qualities, then definitely most likely not in any objective reason kind of qualities within you. So it's like, it sucks, because if you really want world peace, what you need to do is either awaken in world leaders objective reason, or you need to get people who already have developed objective reason and get them into places of power. And either one of those things is like a fool's errand. It's just weep. There's nothing left to do but to weep. And regarding the same question, it happens there just as our Mullah Nasser Eddin has already once said, namely, this is the highest punishment. Pull at the tail, the mane gets stuck. Pull at the mane, and the tail gets stuck. Yeah, exactly what I said. It's like, you wanna get a power-possessing being and you want to awaken objective consciousness in them. If you do that, the conscience will kind of block them from operating properly, and, you know, all of the other Hasnamusian around them will devour them, so you're stuck. Or you get someone with objective reason already, and you try and put them in that position where, if, you know, you're not ready, if you're not willing to, you know, crack a few eggs to make an omelet because you have conscience, well, you're not gonna, you're stuck. You're not gonna get power possessing, you're not gonna become a power possessing being. So it's like, some of the Mullah Nasruddin lines are just kind of quirky, and I don't really understand, but that one there, I felt that one. Yeah. Oof. Whatever might have been, yet, as I have already said, your favorites, at the present time again, wish to find possible ways and means for the abolition of this terrible property of their... I was thinking it's like property, or is it propriety? I always read that wrong, I'm a little dyslexic. Of theirs which has become inherent in them, and fastened onto their psyche as strongly, Jesus Christ, I'm fumbling, as the consequences of the properties of the organ Kundabuffer. Yeah, it's all the Kundabuffer's fault, which, remember, who put the Kundabuffer on humanity? Yeah, the Archangel, the Archons, the Archangels, who have, and they were people who have objective being reason, so Jesus Christ, if they can make mistakes, look at us. Oh, you're cracking some eggs right now, are you, Morka? Delicious. Make some, making an omelet, making some scrambled eggs. That's just one of Gurja's favorite meals, a nice omelet. And of course, these members of the contemporary society, the League of Nations, will endeavor to attain this abolition by all kinds of regulations and various agreements devised by them, by which means those ancient beings also endeavored to attain it. That is to say, by those ways and means by which, in my opinion, it is now already absolutely impossible there to attain anything effective. So League of Nations, remember, I think it was in the previous stream, League of Nations, Gurdjieff says, is just a recurrence from ancient Babylon. It's happened before. We've tried it again. We've tried it before. It's just so hard to get anything effective. What does effective mean? Effective means somewhat permanent, maybe not for like forever, but can we get something good happening that then lasts for at least 100 years, not just a decade or two? I was gonna say 1,000 years, but whatever. From this contrivance of your contemporary favorites, some advantage might be derived, even quite a great one, but only for their inevitable newspapers, for drawing room conversations, and of course for the various Hasnamusian manipulations of the terrestrial, as they are called, stock jugglers. Lamau. Is he like making fun of Wall Street there? The state of affairs in regard to this terrifying evil, there is at the present time already such that to attain the immediate total destruction on the surface of their planet of this, as I said, hideous property, which has already entered their flesh and blood, is not only a meaningless task for their miserable reason, but is in general almost impossible. However, my boy, even these contemporary beings of this contemporary common planetary society, the League of Nations, might perhaps, in spite of the fact that impartial reason, proper to the presence of all three-brained beings, who have already attained responsible age, is absent in them, so the League of Nations is run by children, also achieve positive results in the fundamental aim they have set themselves if they occupy themselves with solving the actualizing of only those questions which are in the sphere of their competence and powers. Yeah. Oh yeah. Ah yes, those are my boy. However, my boy. But yeah. Ugh. Just reading this just makes me depressed. Knowing their, so to say, ways, I'm quite sure that they will not occupy themselves with those questions which are within the reach of their understanding. They would like to do, and really do, everything in such a direction that these processes of reciprocal destruction should cease immediately and forever. Ugh. Let's stop all the wars, guys, by nuking everyone. If indeed, with all their being, They were aware of the whole objective terror of these processes and desired sincerely, jointly to eradicate this evil from the surface of their planet. Then they would willy-nilly penetrate into the essence of this question, and would understand that such an inherency, which had become fixed in their psyche during hundreds of centuries, can never be decrystallized in the course of a few decades. Education, education, education. No child left behind, but unfortunately children were left behind. The schizo prophet says, but war is good. Yes, I agree. War is a forcing of the wills. War is a binding together of men. Who is closer? You and your friend, or you and your enemy when you've plunged your sword directly through their gut? In that one moment of contact, you are closer to them than any of your friends in your life. The strange unity of war, the esotericism of war, the metaphysics of war. Let's get some Cormac McCarthy and Evola in here. I would love to see a room with Gurdjieff, Julius Evola, and then Cormac McCarthy just fighting it out. That would be crazy. Because Cormac McCarthy is just, people just see him as an author, but he's one of those guys who was an author, but then he was super widely read. Like, if you've, like in Blood Meridian, in fact, if you own a copy of Blood Meridian and you open it up, the, dedication or the opening quote is Jakob Boehm, the German mystic. He has a line from there. It's like, Cormac McCarthy was really, really well read. Like, I think there was, whenever they did seminars where they'd get, poets and authors, but then also scientists together, he was the only one that understood the scientists. Like, he would read up on physics of his time and things like that. It's just he was this crazy guy. Crazy guy. Blood Meridian is a savage book, yeah. Judge Holden. Mwah. Mwah. Fantastic. Fantastic. Yeah, I'd pay to see that too. I'd pay to see that too. Gurdjieff, Cormac, and Evola duking it out on the essence of war and the essence of man and the direction, the teleos of humanity itself. That would be amazing. Anyway, fantasies aside, if they understood this, they would not attempt to decide to actualize anything in this respect for the welfare of their contemporaries, but would direct and use all their attention, all their powers, and all their possibilities, having only the beings of future generations in view. That is it. That's so many countries have been ruined from just short-term, and it's not just short-term greed. This is the thing that people don't get. It's short-term virtue. No child left behind is literally a good example of that. That's a virtue. You don't want to leave children behind, but you didn't have any second-order thinking to look into the future and see what effect this would have, and actually it leaves children were left behind. It ruined the education system. Oh man. Short-term virtue is almost worse than just short-term greed. Yeah, there's nothing so selfless, schizoprophet. I assume you're saying so selfish. There's nothing as selfish as to be selfishly ignorant. So selfless as to be selfishly ignorant. I'm not sure. Yeah, I think I understand your meaning, schizoprophet. But yeah, bruh. Sometimes the danger of virtue is greater than the danger of vice. Because when people are evil, it's obvious. But when people are but I just wanted to help, and then everything's on fire, and you're like, yeah, you helped, buddy, you helped. And they start crying, and it's and then you have to comfort them while everything's still burning. It's just a freaking mess, dog. It's just a mess. And it's hard because when they're but I only wanted to do good, and it's I want to do this good thing, and you're like, yeah, it's not going to work. And then I want to do good. You're stopping me from doing good, therefore you're evil. And you get this weird dichotomy. Really weird dichotomy with some people like that. But yeah, this is the key, really. To fix the world, and this is the thing with fixing the world, it is possible to fix the world with policy. Even now, Even now, if all of the, all of the world leaders, if even some of the world leaders could just immediately fix, well, immediately fix their countries with policy, the problem is the fix won't happen in that generation, the true fix. Like, maybe you can do some short-term stuff, but if you really want change, if you want real change, you will not see, your kids will see. And that's the thing. We had boomers. Boomers were like an entire generation of like slightly Hasnamusian people who only saw short-term stuff. Ugh. Tragedy. Tragedy. Anyway, let's go. Let's get in. Let's get back into it, guys. I'm in a ranty mood today. For instance, if instead of wiseacring now, and as is still said there, Don Quixoting, now that's a term you don't hear very often anymore, with the aim of immediately attaining a total cessation of these processes of theirs, they were to occupy themselves with the eradication of the conviction which has become fixed in their ordinary processes of existence. Of the virtue of two notions they have, that is to say, if they would try to attain the abolition of the practice of exalting certain of the participants in these processes to what are called heroes, and rewarding them with honors and what are called orders. And also, so that's interesting, stop giving honors to the virtuous thing, which sounds counterintuitive, but it's that thing. Eventually, over time, people don't do virtuous thing, they just seek the honors. And it's not that they do virtuous things and then get the honors and that was the real thing they're looking for. They don't even do the virtuous thing. They just say they're going to do the thing, and then it's like, here you go, Obama, a world peace, you know, Nobel Peace Prize. And then it's like, thank you, time to drone strike civilians. So you got to like actually stop giving out Nobel Peace Prizes if you want more peace. It sounds counterintuitive, but I completely agree with Gurdjieff on that. And rewarding them with honors, or blah blah blah. And also, if they would try to attain the abolition even of one of their illustrious sciences from among their many Hasnamusian sciences. So yeah, you got to start destroying some of the sciences that you don't need anymore. I don't think we need certain aspects of critical theory, if you know what I mean. I mean, I am wearing this hat, so hey, there you go. Invented by certain pimpled beings among them. Oof, that's funny. In which it is nonchalantly proved that the periodic reciprocal destruction on the Earth is very, very necessary, lol, and that if it did not exist, an intolerable overpopulation would result on the Earth, and such economic horrors would ensue that beings would begin to eat each other. Oh, hold on. So Gurdjieff isn't saying that. I think he's implying that any science that deduces that this is truth, oh, it was a good because it depopulates. Anybody who says any hint of that is a Hasnamusan, and you should just not listen to them. Immediately disregard. Hasnamusan detected, opinion rejected. That's basically what he's saying. If they would attain the abolition of these two practices, so stop giving honors to people who are virtuous, fine, sounds counterintuitive, and also defund sciences that call for depopulation. So those two practices which have already become firmly fixed in the process of their abnormal ordinary being existence, then, thanks to the abolition of the first, they would eradicate forever the greater part of those automatic factors which make the psyche of the growing generation also predisposed to be subject to that special property on account of which they always fall into that state into which has already become, without fail, habitual for them to fall during these processes. And thanks to the second, they would help towards this, that they might not reach the beings of future times. Yeah. So you got to cleanse the education system to prevent our future generations from being corrupted, times at least one of those idiotic ideas from the number of already, without this sufficiently numerous similar ideas constantly arising there. Exactly. $1 Million Extreme presents World Peace. I haven't seen that sketch, actually. I haven't seen that one. I gotta check it up. Yeah, exactly. I agree, Schizoprophet. Now, which are transmitted from generation to generation as something lawful and indubitable, and which altogether are partly the cause of the formation in their presences of those properties, not one of which is becoming to three-centered beings of our great megalocosmos, and among the number of which there belongs also that property inherent in them alone, which engenders in them even doubt in the existence of divinity, and owing chiefly to this doubt, there has almost entirely disappeared from their common presences the possibility of the precipitation of those data which should without fail be precipitated in the presences of all three-brained beings, the totality of which data engenders in them the impulse called the instinctive sensing of those certain cosmic truths which are always felt even by all one-centered, two-centered beings, wherever they might breed in the whole of the universe. So an instinctual perception of cosmic truths is what he just loves padding out his friggin' paragraphs, don't he? So what was he saying? That was like a really long sentence. I assume he was saying something like, getting rid of this and numerous similar ideas will allow our consciousness to slowly go back to a point where we can just kind of regain a kind of a natural automatic understanding of truth. No more divine madness allowed, says Schizoprophet. I would say we need more divine madness. In fact, to be someone who sees, just naturally senses universal truth without being able to explain it, that person seems like a madman to some people nowadays. Based in divinity pilled. Exactly, Callum. Exactly. But the misfortune for all other ordinary favorites of yours is that these power-possessing and important beings assembled from the whole of the planet do not begin to occupy themselves with these questions, considering them to be beneath their dignity. What next? Such important members of such important societies suddenly occupying themselves with such trivial matters? Good God. In general, in consequence of the fact that every kind of data for individual manifestation have already quite ceased to be crystallized in most of these three-brained beings who have taken your fancy, particularly the contemporary ones, and they manifest themselves only according to the dictates of the consequences of the properties of the organ Kundabuffer. They, therefore, do not like to occupy themselves with such affairs which are within their reason and within their power, but occupy themselves always with decisions of such questions which are incomparably higher than their reason. So everyone who has a position in government always like fires above their actual competency. It's like there's something that they're not at the competent level to handle, and they're like, yeah, let's do this, guys. Let's do this. Yeah. Thanks to this feature of their strange psyche, one other peculiar and in the highest degree strange psychic organic need had been formed in them during the last 20 centuries. The chief manifestation of just this psychic organic need of theirs consists in this, that each of them must always, of necessity, as they say, teach others sense, or put them on the right road. Do you know, my boy, my mentioning this exceptional feature of their character inherent in all of them, without exception, leads me to the thought of the desirableness of explaining to you at this point about their strange psyche, and give you the advice like that which that good old fellow Al Ahun already once gave you, when I ended my explanation about the contemporary terrestrial illustrious art. Now that was a great chapter. Chapter art was a great chapter. There was so much in that. Oh, Monty Kukuli 1909 says, hello Richard, I love you. I love you too, Monty. He then said, among other things, ooh. Oh, Morgoth upgraded his membership to Gnostic Hierophant. Thank you, Morgoth. Getting back in the game, eh? Then said, among other things, we have members here on this YouTube channel. You can subscribe and become a member. It always helps out the channel. Thank you very much. That if, for some reason or other, you happen to exist there on the planet Earth and to mix with these strange three-brained beings, then you must always be very careful with those contemporary types there who are called representatives of art, and never offend them, and thus not make violent enemies among them. No problem, Schizo, no problem. Yeah, so this is interesting. So he's referencing the art thing, because in that chapter he says this exact thing. It's like, the actors he was talking about, it's like, you must never, like, critique, they always say that they're amazing, or else they will immediately become your enemy, and it will make problems for you. So I think he's going to say something similar about politicians. At that time, our dear Ahun, bearing in mind their numerous weaknesses, such as their self-love, pride, vanity, and still many others, indicated to you, in which cases, just which of these specific properties of theirs it was necessary, as he expressed it, to tickle. He, as in tickle, as in you gotta tickle the balls of their vanity to get them on your side. Make them giggle, and they'll like you forever. He even then explained to you. Yeah, can't accept different perspectives, must be a skill issue. Exactly, Schizo. He even then explained to you in detail about what and how it was necessary to speak to them, so that they should always have good relations with you, and so that they should always and everywhere praise you and only speak good about you. Concerning this advice of his, I can say nothing bad. It cannot be denied. It is ideal for the type he mentioned. The contemporary representatives of art there, in fact, have in great abundance the specific properties enumerated by our dear Ahun, and if on each occasion you tickle these particular properties of theirs, they will indeed worship you, and in everything always behave towards you. Not worse than those who are called the Asklainan slaves. Okay. I guess those are people who are slaves to those tendencies. But though this advice of his excellent and even indispensable for existence among them, so you got to know how to do that if you want to live in LA. I personally do not consider it practical for you. Not practical in the first place because since not all the beings of Earth are like representatives of art, this advice does not apply to all of them in general. And secondly, because it will be inconvenient for you always to have to remember all these numerous particularities and each time to stop and think on which occasion which of these numerous weaknesses of theirs must be tickled. I wish to point out to you one great secret of their psyche, namely, I wish to point out to you only one particularity of theirs which, if you know how to profit by it, might create in each one of them the same effect in their manifestations above which Ahun spoke. Okay, we're getting into some psychology. Let's see what Gurdjieff says. Let's see what dark hypnosis technique he's going to teach us. If you will act upon them through this same particularity, then you will not only be on very good terms with them all, but even if you wish, you will be able, knowing this secret of their psyche, fully to ensure your tranquil and happy existence. They're both, as regards money, necessarily required there, as well as other conveniences, the taste and blissful significance of which our dear teacher expressed by the words roses, roses, rosebud, rose. Did Gurdjieff see Citizen Kane? Was he alive when that was made? You no doubt, my boy, have already guessed that by this secret of their psyche I refer just this same, as I called it, psycho-organic need of theirs, to teach others sense, and to put them on the right road. This special property, formed in their psyche, thanks of course always to the same abnormally established conditions of ordinary being existence, becomes, as it were, when each one of them already becomes a responsible being, an obligatory part of his presence, everyone there, without exception, has this psycho-organic need, old and young, men and women, and even those whom they call prematurely born. Yeah, come on, tell us what it is. The mentioned particular need of theirs arises in them, in its turn, thanks to another particular property. Oh, god damn, he's just skirting around it. Of theirs, which... So we got to guess what it is by him dancing around it. There's which is that from the very moment when each of them acquires the capacity to distinguish between wet and dry, then carried away by this attainment, he ceases forever to see and observe his own abnormalities and defects, but sees and observes those same abnormalities and defects in others. Okay, kind of projection. Okay. It has, as in, like, you know, the guy's like, I'm never late. That guy over there, he's always late. And, you know, the person speaking is the latest man in the world. That whole thing. It has already become customary there at the present time that all your favorites always teach others like themselves even things the notions of which they have not even dreamed of. And the joke of it is that if these others do not learn from him, or at least do not pretend that they wish to learn, then they are not only offended, but even always very inwardly, very sincerely indignant. Yeah, so this is like the old codgers being like, you know what, son? Find a job that you love. And you're like, thanks, bro. Yeah, like, that's some great words of wisdom, but you gotta, like, just listen to their crap stories. I fucking knew a guy who, every time a new movie came out, he'd be like, it's shit, I can tell. And then, like, you'd go see it and be like, nah, it's really good, it's really good. He's like, nah, it sucks. And he'd, like, pull it to pieces. And I'm like, dude, you haven't even seen the movie. And then years later, he would watch the movie and then come back and be like, man, this movie's great. You should see it, and start explaining to me why I should watch this movie that I told him to see. And it's just like, bruh. That guy. But you gotta, like... If you want to get on those kinds of people's good sides, you just have to, like, listen to their shit stories. And on the contrary, if one of these others should learn sense from them, or at least pretend that he is very anxious to learn it, yeah, okay, this is interesting, then these beings will not only love and respect him, but will feel satisfied and greatly delighted. So this is, people love to teach things. And if you could pretend that you learnt something genuinely from this person, they will like you. Very interesting. Seems like he's describing ideology. I mean, ideology definitely falls into that category, because then people will be like, let me explain capitalism to you, or communism, or free markets, or something. But it's even just explaining things in general. You know, like kids. Like, kids will be like, did you know? And they'll just, like, tell you about how a fork is used or something. And you're like, yeah, I knew that, buddy. But, like, you know, a kid didn't know a thing before yesterday. And they don't really have the idea that, you know, other people in the world, you know, also might have already been through that experience. They just kind of like, well, I learned a new thing. Hey, did you know? It's like, it's that kind of essence that is, like, within them, within all children, and it's still in people as they grow up. People love teaching things. People love not to be the teacher, hoity-toity, but if you tell someone something and, you know, and it genuinely helps them out, it feels good. And it's that feeling you can artificially create in someone else by, like, listening to them in a particular way and being like, wow, thanks, I really learned something. You can artificially generate that in another person. That's what he's basically saying. Very sneaky Gurgy Burgy is being here. Morgoth just wrote, I've learned so much from Richard. Thank you, Morgoth. You're my favorite, Morgoth. I like you so much. Anyway, let's keep going. You're alright, Morgoth. You're alright. Schizo says, reminds me of the cognitive test to determine if animals can understand perspectives. That's interesting. I haven't read that one. What was the outcome? Because animals can, you know, people used to think animals are just like drones that just go through the world or something. But, you know, they've got They've got stuff going on. The animals have got kind of justice systems and humor, and they even understand. I like one guy had this whole take on like animals understand object permanence, and you can demonstrate that by doing magic tricks in front of them, where you like show them a coin and then go woo, and then like make it disappear, and they act surprised. And it's like, so animals have object permanence because when it disappears, it surprises them. I'm like, yeah, animals have got a lot of stuff going for them, bruh. Animals have got a lot of stuff going for them. But they, what is it, a test that they can they understand different perspectives? Can an animal cognize and construct a, should I eat this or should I leave it for my neighbor who's probably hungry because he hasn't eaten breakfast yesterday? Can animals do that? Now that would be impressive, because some humans can't do that, if you know what I mean. Now, it must be remarked here, my boy, that only in these circumstances can your favorite speak about others without malice and without criticism. And so, my boy, I strongly advise you that if for any reason you have to exist among them, always pretend that you wish to learn something from them. Yeah, boy. That is my tip for if you join an occult school. The number one way to get all those secret teachings is pretend, like, be like, whoa, like this is amazing, and like really attentive. And there's a kind of a way of, because there are a lot of dicks in occult schools, but you can still kind of like, if they're a dick, they still might have knowledge that you need. And it's like, how do you get knowledge out of the dick? You got to stroke it in just the right way, and then the knowledge comes out of the tip. You know what I mean? And this is like literally how I would describe to do it. You just like always pretend you're learning something from them. Like, wow, that's really good. You know what the best example of this is, actually? You know what the best example of this? There's a book that is a dual biography of Dion Fortune and Aleister Crowley. And the author's interesting because he's not like saying they're the same. He's actually saying the opposite. They're really, really different. Like, there are some weird similarities about them. You know, they're both British. They both attended the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn. But, you know, one's male, one's female, one extremely, you know, degenerate life. One was a very strict and chaste life. They were both occultists. But, like, one, you know, left Britain, traveled the world. Dion Fortune never left the island. They both had these really contrasting differences about themselves, but they actually knew each other. And although they only met once physically in their entire life, and everyone's like, oh, blah, blah, blah. But it's actually really interesting. They had apparently Dion Fortune and Aleister Crowley had an extensive letter communication with each other. And he puts one of the letters in the book, this Dion Fortune and Aleister Crowley biography by, Alan Richardson, I think it is. And that biography, that letter, one of the letters, and it's Dion Fortune to Crowley. And it's really interesting because Dion Fortune, basically, the letter opens up with her glazing him up, just being like, oh, I got the copy of your tarot deck and it is amazing, truly significant. It'll be the next thing. Like, she glazes him up for a paragraph and then says, now, I can't understand this one thing. It is because I lack the education and I need someone like you to explain this to me. Like, I'm paraphrasing it. She says it way better and way sneakier, but you can like see in her letters, she like glazed him up and then was like, hey, can you give me this one thing? And it's like this thing, it's like, if put yourself in Dion Fortune's shoes, she never had the opportunity to leave, you know, the island, so to speak. But then you got a guy like Aleister Crowley, who we know everything about Crowley because of the internet. But you know, if you lived in those times, there ain't no Google. You just meet this guy called Crowley, who apparently is well respected and he can speak multiple languages. Like, what are you gonna do? But not only that, it's like Crowley was able to go to China, was able to go to India, was able to get like these teachings. And so it's like, once again, how do you get the knowledge out of the beast? She like full glazes him up and like gets the knowledge out of him. And it's really interesting because there's evidence in Aleister Crowley's work that Crowley, you know, knew of Dion Fortune and thought really highly of her. Even like, there's like a list that Crowley made at one point where he was like morose and he was like, these are the only people who have understood my doctrine. And he put like Carl Germer and like made a list of people. And Dion Fortune's on that list. It's like, she is one of the only people who have understood my doctrine. I'm like, oh, okay. So Crowley thought really highly of Fortune, but then you look at Fortune and in her works, when she mentions Crowley, she's like, nah, Yeah, he's alright. He's like, you know, he's a genius, but I wouldn't do his practices. And then, like, even then, I haven't read it. I need to read the Winged Bull, but apparently in the Winged Bull, she like straight up puts a like, this is a guy named Ballister Dowley. You know, no, that's not the real name, but it's like clearly an Aleister Crowley like kind of strawman in the book, and it's just like this guy, black magician, don't trust him. It's crazy, fantastic, fantastic. Well done, Dion Fortune. But anyway, this is the principle. This is the principle that Gurdjieff is teaching us to use. What's going on in chat? Some animals can imagine themselves as other animals. Predators do this quite a bit to understand their prey. That's interesting. That's very interesting then, yeah. Oh, and the schizoprophet then adds to that. Typical story is animal A has some kind of food and leaves it behind. Animal B comes, takes the food and hides it somehow while animal A is gone. Very interesting, very interesting. Nick D says, crazy jungle squirrels forgot where they stashed their Brazil nuts. This is how Brazil trees propagate. That's funny. Yeah, some animals... I mean, that's more memory than pure cognition that we're talking about. But anyway. Yeah, that was... Anyway. Let's get it on. What were we talking? Where were we now? Always pretend that you wish to learn something from them. Act in the same way towards their children, and then you will not only be on excellent terms with them, but the whole family will even look on you as the honored friend of the house. That's how you do it, man. That's how you do it. When a kid is like, did you know that blah, 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 pee, pee, poo, pee comes out of the butthole? You're like, you don't be like, no. You'd be like, wow, that's amazing. Tell me more. You get on that kid's good side. That's how you do it, man. That's how you do it. Always remember that any one of them, however insignificant he himself may be in essence, looks down owing always to his self-conceit ensuing from the particular property with contempt upon the conduct and actions of others, especially if their conduct and actions sharply contradict his own subjectively established point of view. And in these cases, he, as I have already said, usually becomes inwardly sincerely offended and indignant. I might as well here remark that thanks to this property of your favorites always to grow indignant at the defects of others around them, they make their existence already wretched and abnormal. Without this objectively unbearable, thanks to this constant indignation, the ordinary being existence of these unfortunates flows almost always with unproductive, what are called moral sufferings, and these futile moral sufferings of theirs continue, as a rule, by momentum, to act for a very long time on their psyche. So to say, semzekionally. Bruh, that's not a word. Or as they would say there on your planet, depressingly. Oh, okay. Yeah, I've been a semzekionally for a little while now. That is, they ultimately become, of course, without the participation of their consciousness, instrurian, or as they would say, nervous. That's pretty funny. Hey, another guy. How's the hump day going? And then they become, in the process of their ordinary being existence, completely uncontrolled. Even those being manifestations of theirs, which have nothing in common with the primary causes which have evoked this instruerness or nervousness of theirs, only thanks to this property of theirs alone to be indignant at the defects of others, their existence has become gradually even arc-tragic comic. Arc-tragic comic. Alas, alas. Subtle Realms says, hi, thanks for the talk. New to your channel, feeling good vibes here. Thank you, Subtle Realms. We're just going through Goji Boji's book. Woo. We're in the later chapters now, so it's getting deep. Anyway, for instance, at every step there you must meet a picture of sorts. Interesting. These freaks lose, so to say, that outer mask, which, thanks to the same maleficent means existing there, called education, most of them have little by little learned to wear from their childhood, and thanks to which they can very well conceal their genuine inner and outer trifling significance from others, and in consequence they automatically become slaves of others to the degree of humiliation, or as they themselves say there, they fall as regards all their inner experience under somebody's thumb, for instance, under the thumb of wife or mistress, or of such another, who by some means has ferreted out the inner significance of the given terrestrial being, and thus the latter ceases to have for them this artificial mask. And indeed it is just such a terrestrial being under somebody's thumb who, as a rule, is more indignant than anyone else at other beings of their planet, as for instance at some king who for some reason or other is unable to keep in submission tens of thousands of communities, and it is just such beings who are under somebody's thumb who usually write various manuals in which they show in detail how what must be done for the good of the government of others. Or again, when one of the... the people who are under the thumb of the government talk about how we should really run the government. People who have terrible relationships give relationship advice, etc., etc. Oh, another guy asks, are you going to do a video on Beelzebub after finishing it? I'm going to... Maybe eventually. Here's the thing, I've been recording each one of my sessions, so I want to, like, go through them all and cut them into, like, shorts, which is going to be a freaking job and a half. Some are on my old computer still, which I need to rescue before the motherboard just fully dies. But, yeah, so that's going to suck if I do lose them. Oh. But, yeah, once I have it all, again, definitely there's going to be, maybe not Beelzebub itself, but definitely some parts here and there. I definitely want to do some, more fourth wave vids. I've got a bunch of fourth wave vids planned. Sins. I'm terrified about OTO sex magic. Don't do it, bro. Get out. Get out before the 11th degree when they go up your butthole. Where are we? Show in detail what must be done for the good of... Yeah. Or again, when one of the contemporary beings of this peculiar planet, whose heart, as they always say, sinks into his boots from fright when, for instance, a mouse runs past him, learns that so-and-so meeting a tiger felt a little timid, then this hero will be inwardly extremely indignant with him and will without fail, in conversation with his friend foaming at the mouth, denounce him and prove that he is a vile criminal coward for having been frightened by such a mere tiger, Yeah, so once again, fat dudes on the couch who have never lifted a finger watching boxing being like, yeah, I could take him. That's basically... This is what he's talking about. And yet again, the various books and manuals concerning also what must be done and how and what must be done on meeting a tiger or other similar being are written by these mouse unflinching heroes there. Or further, one of them, whomst has a score of various, as it is said, their chronic diseases, thanks to which, for whole weeks at a time, his stomach does not work, and his whole body is covered with all kinds of malignant pimples, from which diseases he of course suffers day and night. I think like Gurdjieff is visually creating a Wojak that he is then the Chad face against. In short, such a being there who for many years has been a genuine walking anatomical museum of all the diseases existing on that planet, is always more indignant than anyone else when someone has carelessly caught, let us say, a cold. And this is also, I call this kind of person, you know, the guy who always has to measure shit. Like, when you're having a bad day, they're like, oh yeah, my day is so bad, my day is worse. And or when it's like, oh, I had the best cake. And it's like, oh, you think that cake's good? You gotta try. And they're just always like that with everything. And it's like, they always gotta be better. And if you're feeling down, then they gotta be more down than you. It's like that, you know that guy. You know that guy. It's this frickin' dude. This frickin' dude right here is what's being described. And the one-up motherfuckers. They always can't help it. And these where are we? And these walking anatomical museums, they invariably instruct others with great authority how to get rid of this cold. And it is precisely they alone who write various books and manuals concerning all kinds of other diseases. There and expound in minute detail how to guard against and get rid of them. Ugh. At every step one might also observe such an absurdity as this. One of them, who even does not know in the least what that ordinary tiny being which often bites him, called a flea, looks like, writes a huge volume or draws up a special, what is called popular lecture, that the flea whose bite made the neck of a historical King Nochen swell, had on its left paw an abnormal orange-crimson growth of a peculiar strange... Yeah, so he's just saying, like, someone who's never even seen a flea will write a volume on how a king died from a flea bite, and that flea had, what is it, an orange dot on its, like, left paw. It's like they go into detail on something that they've never even experienced. Never even experienced. Bro, I remember reading, there's a book called Brother of the Third Degree, and I lent it to some friends, no longer friends, to read. They read it, I read it. We had different opinions about the ending of the book. They told another guy, and this guy was like arguing with me that their interpretation was the correct one. And I'm like, you've never read the book, bro. You've never read the book. And this guy, he was like that all the fucking time. Oh my god. Oh my god. This is like Gurdjieff hitting close to home here. Gurdjieff hitting close to home here for me. Good god. I've met this guy again and again and again all through my life. Well then, if this expert in fleas, they will write his voluminous work, if he will read for a whole evening his popular lecture on the orange-crimson growth on the mentioned flea, then if anyone will not believe him and will express his doubt to his face, he will not only be offended, but even greatly indignant. And he will be indignant chiefly because this somebody is such a what is called ignoramus. But they're both ignoramuses. This is the old man who knows half the truth talking to man who has none of the truth, and they're arguing with each other. That he has not even heard anything about the truths communicated to him by this expert. Thanks to all and these are the people we need to manipulate to get some stuff out of. It is objectively morally correct to manipulate these people. This is what Gurdjieff is teaching us. Thanks to all the aforementioned, such pictures are met with at every step there on your planet. In this existence of these strange three-brained beings, that only form observing and studying them every normal being existence, that if he will indeed take in and study his perceptions, might become fully instructed in all branches of general objective science. So, such pictures are meant, yeah. It seems that he's talking about kind of like layers of the personality. So some people may not be like this, or they may not seem to be like this. But as you get to know them, they open up to you and they'll tell you things. And the whole thing is you got to be careful, because if you're like, if I'm not sure if that's right, then they're like, oh, okay, and then the mask goes back on, and you've actually kind of lost them. But if you're able to recognize the situation, you can kind of keep going deeper within them, and they'll keep telling you things. Yeah, so that was the thing about the pictures then, that only form observing and studying them, every normal being existing there, if he will indeed take and study his perceptions, might become fully instructed in all branches of general objective science. Yeah. I think he's just saying there, it's like, these people believe that they have a full understanding of all forms of objective science just through their own senses. Ugh. Schizoprophet says, basically, most upper management about how the front end should be operating, while I'm trying to explain about the addicts and shoplifters making that impossible. Yeah. Yep. 100%. Is it even manipulation if they deliberately choose not to pursue their own interests? I guess that's the debate. The irony that the most guarded personalities are the most open books. For the satisfying of your exactly, by the way. Now, for the satisfying of your favorite's astonishingly strange need, as is said there. Ooh, hello. Member for 6 months, Tyler. I wonder at what point does this tactic of manipulation cross into the left-hand path and stops to have a moral standing. So, once again, he's not manipulating them to make them do something against their will. That would be black magic. Don't make people do things against their will. He's just doing this manipulation thing here to acquire knowledge. That's all he's talking about. Now, you heard of the noble lie, right? Or maybe you haven't. But there's this concept that it is okay to actually lie. Kant was wrong. It is okay to lie. Why? Because we're not all the same. The libertarians were wrong. Human nature is not a fixed thing. It is in flux. So there are different humans at different levels of being. And here's the crazy thing. Here's the thing that when you say it, you go, oh, because of our education. Someone of a higher level of being can lie to someone of a lower level of being and it be okay. It can be just. But it is unjust if a person of a lower level of being lies to a person of a higher level of being. And it's like, what? How can you say that? Think of parents and kids. When you take your kids to the pool and you're teaching them to swim, and you're holding them, and you're like, and then you kind of let go a little bit, and they're like, I need help, And it's like, no, you got this, I'm holding you, and you're not holding them. But they're treading water. They believe that you're holding they believe that you're holding them, and that belief kind of calms them down and they're able to tread water. But if you're honest with them, if you're truthful, they would sink. So you have to lie for them to become competent. You got to lie to them. Same principle is almost like boxing coaches when they're like the guys at the corner of the ring and it's like, you're winning, you know, to keep their, you know, the boys up, to keep the confidence up. You're winning, you just got to take him out. But if they're saying you're doing shit, you're doing crap, like what's going to happen to the boxer in the ring? He's going to crumble. But it's like, you're winning, you got him on the ropes, just one more, you're winning this, get in there. And like then the guy goes in and wins. It is just to lie to people. In these cases, Christianity and Kant, they got it wrong. Well, interpretations of Christianity and just Kant got it wrong. But it's like, these are the things. And it's hard because it's like, well, then who's got higher being? Who's got lower being? Well, nowadays we're in the Kali Yuga and everything's mixed. So it's just kind of messed up. So you can't really have a society that has a functioning law that's like, if you're this kind of person, it's okay to lie. That just doesn't happen. It's just, you kind of do have to rely on a Kantian ethic in that sense. But what Gurdjieff is basically pointing out here is like, yeah, there are these people, right? And they act, you can tell that they're these people because they act in this way. And these people, this is how you deal with them. And basically this is what he's saying. Wait, Schizoprophet, I still ain't forgiving Plato for being the godfather of trolls. God, and this is another thing, I got so many vids to make, I really want to make a vid on, like, Plato's secret third philosophy. Monte says based. Thank you, Monte. Kimberly says she agrees. Exactly. Craig Howard in the chat reminds me of virtue ethics between the vices of dishonesty, and total bluntness is a virtuous middle ground. Yeah. Truth without mercy can be just as bad. Another guy says, what would be an example where the person under is lying? As in, like, then a kid, like, lying to their parents. Did you, Johnny, yes, papa, telling lies? You know, did you eat the last cookie? No. Like, that's a kid, you know, that's a kid lying to their superior, where they probably shouldn't lie. You know, the parent wants to do good by them. And where it really blurs the line is when the kid starts to become an adult, a teenager. That's where it gets really blurry. You know, one of my favorite Black Mirror episodes? Out of all of the Black Mirror episodes, there's this one called Archangel, and it's really subtle because the only tech in the episode is there's like a company that installs cameras in your kids' eyes so you can see where they are and you can, like, you help them, you can make sure they're not in danger, kind of thing. So the kid gets it installed, but then they turn the cameras off. The mom's like, oh, I can't just be helicopter parenting my kid, it's this mercy. But then the kid becomes a teenager, and then it's like, then she's not out she doesn't come home one night, and the parent's like panicking, and then she goes back to the camera and looks it in, and then with that information, the parent, like, then oversteps. But, like, what would you do in that situation? Would you overstep? Would you do this? What was right? What was right? And it's like, you can say the parent was definitely wrong in the end, but it's like, you see the slow bleed to kind of get there, and, like, was she really unjust in some cases? And that was a really great meditation on, like, agency. I thought episode Archangel of Black Mirror, that was a really great meditation on agency, on who is the kind of rights in that situation, because it's like the teenager becoming an adult and the adult still kind of worried, and it's just that, like, that one in particular, that was the best not handling of that situation, but the best demonstration of what that situation really is, and, like, what you can't, the questions you should be asking. Mwah, fantastic. Monte says, reminds me a lot of magical idealism. Based. I love magical idealism. You have to lie because there aren't sufficient. They aren't sufficient to face their shortcomings. Yeah, that's the other thing. Yeah, that's the exact thing. It's the privation of the absolute individual. So you just gotta be like, okay, here it is. And I mean, that's the way it is. I mean, there's this whole thing of, like, another thing in philosophy called Wittgenstein's ladder, where you deliberately entertain a wrong thought. And by entertaining it and thinking about it and using it, it's like you then go beyond it. Eventually you go beyond it. But if you had never entertained that thought, there's no way you would have actually gotten to the next rung. So it's kind of like we're running up this rung, this ladder of dualism, one lie at a time to get to the final truth. You know what I mean? It's really interesting, this talk, really interesting. Because it goes from, like, we started off talking about this ethics, this ethos of lying, and then it kind of breaches into this metaphysics of, like, the universe and trying to attain truth. It's very, yeah, it's a good topic, guys, good topic. PP strong, absolutely mentally throbbing right now. Let's keep going. For the satisfying of your favorites, astonishingly strange need as it is to say that to not to suffer, they must always have at least one victim for their teachings. I think, like, a lot of friendships are based off of this. Sin asks, what's my thoughts on psychedelics? This ain't the place for me to go on a freaking rant about psychedelics. Let me go on a rant on psychedelics another one. I think I've got a video called, like, The Coming New Age or something. The Coming Age. And it's got, like, kind of like an angel kind of clump of wings on it. And it says Lost Futures on the thumbnail. I talk about my opinion on psychedelics is on that. I have a strong opinion on psychedelics. Now, as is said, they're not to suffer, so they must find a victim for their teaching. But among a number of them who have acquired for some reason or other in these manifestations of theirs a certain authority over others, and who have become in consequence by increasing habit more independent, the appetite grows to the point of acquiring an always greater number of these victims. And then eventually what you do is you start a YouTube channel and you live stream to a group of your victims. Wait a second. Anyway. Oh, hello. Sarah Couch. Congratulations to you actually for breaking my super chat virginity. Well done. No problem, Sarah. I'll break everyone's super chat virginity if you want. Now, yes, my boy, when you will exist among them and will be a witness of these incongruous being manifestations, then even in spite of the fact that you know the cause of these incongruities, you will be unable, as they express it, not to laugh inwardly, and at the same time, with the whole of your being, you will pity these unfortunates. And with your inner laughter, you will gradually be mixed by itself what is called an essence Palnasurian grief. The same particularity of the psyche of the three-centered beings there is especially strongly developed there among the beings belonging to their caste called the Intelligentsia. Okay, so what is this? What is Palnasurian grief? Is this just like sad boy depression you get from reading too much French philosophy? Is that what he's talking about? French philosophy and Russian literature. The ultimate pipeline to depression. The word intelligentsia itself almost denotes that notion there, which we define by the words force in oneself. Force in oneself. Interesting, as if they become too introspective. Yet though by its essence the word intelligentsia there almost the same sense, nevertheless the beings there, particularly the contemporary ones for some reason or other, call by this word just those beings who are the exact opposite of what this word denotes. Okay, so people who are intelligence, people who are intellectuals, who call themselves intellectuals, are literally the opposite of intellectuals. The word intelligentsia is also taken from the ancient Greek language. Is it? Greek or Roman? It is interesting to notice that this same word was used also by the Romans, but having taken it from the Greeks. Okay, there you go. Not by its sense, but by its sound. They later imagined that the roots of this word belonged to their own language. I wonder if this is wrong, but like deliberately wrong on Gurdjieff's part, just so if there is someone who considers themselves an intellectual, they will read this paragraph and get really angry. Like Gurdjieff is just trolling us from the past. That's funny. That's real funny. What's happening in chat? Enigma says, I just learned the meaning of no Hilux handle, and I have a powerful urge to steal this for my Snapchat, even though I'm more hermetic than Gnostic, so based. I just go for it, bruh. Go for it. I mean, I myself stole the no Hilux tag from an old Discordian Telegram chat. If anyone's there from the old no Hilux allowed chat, howdy boys, howdy. That's some old school Telegram lore as well. If anyone's here from the Telegram chat, Schizoprophet, T-Rex, howdy T-Rex, greetings. You're at work and you just came to say hi. Oh, thanks, bruh, thanks. Another guy in Sin talking about psychedelics as a kind of shortcut. Yeah, I'm not going to get deep into it, but it's kind of like imagine lifting and taking roids, but it's not even that. The psychedelics isn't even comparable to roids. It's more of a... Imagine like, you know, an exosuit. Like in a sci-fi film that lets you lift more. Like Ridley from Aliens. Imagine someone putting on that exosuit and then lifting something really heavy like 500 kg. And then They put it down and then they come out of the exosuit and they're still skinny and weedy and they have no strength. And then they go up to someone who's jacked and they go, ha ha ha, I can lift more than you. Why? Because you're using a supplement, basically. You're using something to walk and run. That's the problem with psychedelics is it gives you an effect, an experience, but it didn't develop the willpower to get there. And that's the whole kind of thing. It's like you're trying to develop qualities in your being. And those qualities, the litmus test of attainment is an effect, is an experience. But that's just the effect. That's showing you that you've done the correct practices to develop the qualities. It's the change in being that you want. It's not the, I took LSD and went into the void and then a light opened up my butthole and Jesus came into me. It's like, that's pointless. It's just an experience. And then you just get people like, I met a, once again, I always mention him, I met a guy who took like 13 hits of ayahuasca, and on the last hit, he took a triple shot. So, like, he got to number 10 and then was like, no, I need to go deep, and took three shots in one. And, you know, he had this amazing experience and saw into the void, and the Buddha and all the gods were there, and there was like the divine feminine was there, and she literally looked at him and then showed him all the gods and then said, see this? All of this is just an experience. And at that, when she said that, he realized what she was saying and what she meant, and he was like, oh, and he stopped taking drugs after that. And when I met him, he was just a normal dude. People are like, oh yeah, take drugs, get in line, and it's like, dude, this guy took 13 hits of ayahuasca and was normal. He wasn't Dalai Lama level of anything. There wasn't any superior level of compassion. There wasn't any energetic change to his etheric body. He was just normal. And I really hate it when people, I'm like saying, it's like, look, it's not good for esoteric work. And people are like, oh, but I had a friend in Pee-Pee Poo-Poo Town who, he was like jobless and maidenless and he sucked at life. And then he saw an ayahuasca shaman and he took some healing and now he's got a job and a girlfriend. And it's like, that is fantastic that you got a broken loser and made them normal. That's not what we're doing here. That's not what the discussion is. Can you take someone normal and make them the Superman? Can you take someone normal and make them an initiate? Crystallize solar being bodies in them, make them a god. That's what we're looking at. It's not a healing thing to take someone from sick to normal. It's to go from normal to something else. Medicine doesn't make... If you take medicine when you're sick, it takes you to normal. But if you keep taking medicine, it doesn't do anything. In fact, too much will become a poison. It doesn't do anything. Oh, but I have this friend in here. I'm glad your friend is getting help. I'm glad whatever your family member, it's helpful. I'm not going to deny that people can have profound experiences that are life-changing for them. But that's not esoteric. That's not what we're talking about when we're talking about esoteric things. That's not initiatic, I should say. It's not the initiatic thing we're looking for. So psychedelics are not just... It's not that they're negative. It's just that they are 100% completely and utterly useless for true initiatic work. Unless it is something completely and utterly kindergarten level, like someone's just so intellectual they can't even entertain an idea and you just give them some fucking LSD to blow their minds a little bit, like, oh, other realities maybe are a thing, and then they can consider, and then they can have a little bit of trust and then start doing practices seriously, where as they may have never done that previously, it's like, yeah, cool. Give them something once as a one-off, and then they leave kindergarten and they start working. It's like, this is the thing about psychedelics. This is the thing. Anyway. You're an initiate since childhood, says Sin. I'm not going to comment on that, Sin. I'm not going to comment on that. I'm just going to say, I think we have different ideas of what an initiate is. And that's the other thing, and that another guy says is correct. If psychedelics really did do that, There would be no Bible, there'd be no Tao, there'd be no Vedas, because no master ever would have written a doctrine. They would have just gone around popping mushrooms in people's mouths, and that's it. But we do have those things. We have large sections of alchemical literature, of sacred scriptures, of theurgic praxis. That stuff exists for a reason. And the reason it exists is because psychedelics don't do jack. At a certain point, they don't do jack. Now, rant over. Rant that I said I wasn't gonna do, but I did anyway, over. Oh, and don't get me started on freaking shamans. Oh my god. Anyway. But among the Greeks, this word denoted a being so perfected that he was already able to direct his functions as he wished, and not, for instance, as occurs with every what is called inanimate cosmic formation, every action of which proceeds only as a reaction of external causes. So that's the other thing about intellectuals, is there's nothing original in them. Something hits them and they react against it, whereas a true intelligentsia, an illuminated one, they can direct all of their functions perfectly. So it's more almost like someone who's a Buddhist master combined with like a mentat from Dune. That's what a real intelligentsia is supposed to be. Such beings, no doubt, are also still met with there on your planet as approximately answer to this sense of the word, but only among those contemporary beings of the planet Earth who are considered, according to the understanding of most of the beings there, as unintelligent. So the unintelligent are the true intelligentsia, and the unintelligentsia that we have, forget about them. People claim Mithras took Amanitas. People claimed Jesus took Amanitas, and that's what the gospel is. It's all one big farce, blah, 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 blah. People need to stop getting... people need to stop being junkies and do some real fucking occult work. Sorry for being like that, guys. Is it just me, or does Richard mention Dune every Beelzebub stream? It's a good book. I was actually just thinking yesterday about how amazing it was again. I was just like, just everything's in there, dog. Everything. In my opinion, if those beings, especially of the most recent times, who are called their intelligentsia, would simply be called mechanico-agentsia, that's a mechanogentsia. Okay, so he wants tech priests. Get a little Warhammer 40k here, how you go, Jeff? Then perhaps this would be more correct. So they are intelligent, they're just mechanical. Hey, Hollis here. It would be correct because the contemporary intelligentsia... I just want to finish up some of this stuff. We're getting close to an hour and a half, so I want to find an "and so, my boy," where I can end this. Intelligentsia there can themselves not only give absolutely no direction at all to their being functions, but there are already finely atrophied in them even those data for impulses of essence, initiative, for daily being existence, which in general are always placed by great nature herself in all three-centered beings at their arising. During their responsible existence, these intelligentsia, beings, there always act or manifest only when they receive corresponding shocks from outside, and it is these same shocks proceeding from outside which give them the possibility of becoming correspondingly animated and of experiencing only through the unrolling of the series of former corresponding automatic perceptions already present in them, and not depending at all on their own wish or will, and these external shocks of theirs for the said kind of experiencing are usually in the first place animate or inanimate things accidentally coming within the sphere of their organs of perception, of visibility. Secondly, the various beings they meet. Thirdly, the sounds or words reverberating where they happen to be. Fourthly, sense accents perceived by their senses of smell. And finally, unaccustomed sensations that proceed from time to time during the functioning of their planetary body, or as they say, their organism, and so on. But never do their outer manifestations in general, nor those inner being impulses of theirs, which ought to be under the directive of their being I, proceed according to their own wish, resulting from the whole of their entire presence. Yeah, something very interesting. Something I kind of want to say about that, but I also want to save it for a video. Mechanical, like machine. Yeah, basically he's saying these Intelligentsia are just automated machines. They may have a lot of data inside them that they've collected over time, but they're not really... The elaboration of someone else's thoughts does not make you intelligent. That's the problem. I must here tell you, further, that certain of those terrestrial intelligentistics, in whom during the period of their responsible existence, certain already established forms of their inner functioning have, for various reasons, become definitely changed, are no longer called by the other terrestrial beings intelligentistics, but are given other names composed of different words, or more exactly, of the roots of the words of ancient Greek. Namely, they name them bureaucrats, plutocrats, theocrats, democrats, Gurja voting Republican confirmed, zevrocrats, oh, and aristocrats. Maybe, yeah, maybe we'll end here at zevrocrats. And let's just have a little gander. What's a zevrocrat? Made up word, bruh. Come on. Come on. Come on. Come on. Okay, but the rest of these are real. Why is one of them fake? This is what I find really perplexing about Gurdjieff. God damn. But interesting. Interesting. Yeah, so these people are supposed to be our intelligent leaders, but they ain't. Plot twist. Anyway, maybe we'll leave it there now, guys. We'll leave it there for today. If anyone wants me to rant about anything, now would be the time. But thank you all for watching. We got a... Oh, my dog just walked in. Little pupper. Oh, now he's walking out. Yeah, that's what I thought. Anyway, thank you all for coming. If those want to help out the channel, please do. One-time donation by PayPal link. Also, they've got those crypto wallets there. Anyone want to donate some Solana, some Bitcoin? Because, you know, I hate taxes. Nonetheless, have a good week, guys. I'll see y'all next week. We'll catch up again, and we'll learn about why everyone else is wrong and we are right. Ciao.